For the taking. It's the time to seize opportunities and make the best of them while we can. My name is Nozi Pombandra and you're tuned in to Young Money. Now coming up is a phenomenal mind taking the bull by the horns. We're talking to the Chief Internet Officer of Words and All. Her name is Lindelwa Nzimande. For you at home, remember that you can connect with us. Just drop me a tweet. The handle is @TheRealNozi. Use the hashtag YoungMoney410 and of course following @CNBC Africa. Let us know what you would like to see on the show. Let's get to Lindelwa. So we're sitting down with the Chief Internet Evangelist from Words and All. She's a home girl of mine from Pietermaritzburg. Her name is Lindelwa Nzimande. Lindelwa, it's an absolute pleasure to meet you. We're meeting in Wynberg, in Sandton, in very fancy offices. Give us a sense of what does Words and All actually do?
We are a digital agency, which essentially means we manage brands' reputations online. So we upload on behalf of brands like your banks, government departments. We upload on Facebook, on Twitter. We build apps. We build internet-based radio stations, amongst other things. So in essence, we do anything and everything online communications related. Some people call us an online public relations company.
Right. So if we were to go back to the founding moments of Words and All, take me to that moment when the idea came about. How did you come to conceptualize this company?
Well, I mean, growing up and having studied political science and communications, I had always had a sense that the internet would somewhat take over your traditional communications platforms where brands are concerned. So in 2008, having watched what Obama was doing, how he was using social media to campaign and then become president soon after, I realized that in South Africa and Africa overall, nobody had gone into that sphere to try and do online publicity using social media for political parties. So my initial clients were political parties, and over the years we've diversified to have public sector and private sector clients. So that's what sparked the idea, probably because I've always been a student of political science and communications as a combination.
The similarities are just so astounding between the two of us. So hands up as well as a political scientist and a communication strategist. But I want to go back to the lessons learned thus far. I mean, it's been about 8 years since Obama's inauguration. You've been working in the space for the political space to some extent. Have political parties in South Africa gotten onto the bandwagon in terms of using online platforms to really take the fight to their competitors?
It's interesting that you should raise that. I'm actually writing my thesis, evaluating, because I've been involved in these political campaigns in the online or social media context since early 2009, to be exact, where we did virtual rallies for the top 3 political parties, to be specific. So I've been involved in the processes over the years through the various election stages, from your local government elections to your general elections. So I'm writing a paper evaluating in terms of how South African social parties, the top 3 specifically, have used these tools. You need to take into consideration, unfortunately, that South Africa and the rest of Africa, we've still got infrastructure challenges, we've got socio-economic challenges which hinder us from using the tools as effectively as countries like the US can. We are still a developing countries. You look at the US, it's a developed country already. So the political parties do try, but they've only got so much to work with.
Absolutely, and one would look at the penetration of mobile technology
Yes.
as a really positive indicator. But perhaps let's also just get your views on the penetration of mobile technology is a positive indicator that's certainly going to have a bearing on the pace at which political parties are able to leverage off the platform. I want to go back to you being a woman in the space and whether you've had challenges of credibility, especially initially as you've started off working in the political space, which is not a space for sissies, if I can put it like that.
That's a very honest and accurate way of putting it. As a woman in ICT, I think even generally in communications, you'll have immense challenges. Credibility, yes, because of the stereotype, the stereotype that you are a woman, so you are probably not as capable. You bring your education, you bring your skills. Skills in this instance for me, the biggest challenge was what I was trying to do is something that I was in essence pioneering. Right. Nobody had ever done it. I had to teach myself how to do everything. I had to teach myself how to literally count the number of followers as they increase. I mean, the technology on how to do the work has gotten much better over the years. But when I started, I literally counted the Facebook followers as they increased for my clients by hand. So you could at any one time be counting thousands and thousands of people to generate that status report to show your client the return on investment in terms of what you are doing for them. So the challenges are there, especially in a space that has no template for you to use in order to execute your job.
So in the absence of a template, give us a sense of the funding journey. Did you require quite a steep amount of capital? Was it relatively easier to start off from a financial perspective because you were pioneering a new space that really hadn't been trodden on? What has that experience been like?
The experience wasn't pleasant. I had months where I would not be paid by clients, months where I would not be paid on time. I once waited for payment for a client for about 6 months. I've since learned over the years that you could wait even 2 years and end up writing off that transaction as a bad debt. So the 6 months with hindsight wasn't too bad. So it's those things you learn to navigate. Fortunately, in terms of capital, I didn't need much. I needed a laptop and an internet connection. So initially I worked from the patio of my townhouse, a very small townhouse, 40 square meters, humble beginnings. But you grow into the business in the sense that you start out as being the only overhead, just trying to make ends meet, pay for whatever, follow your passion, have enough money to buy data and execute the project. But over time, if you want to grow and have a wider socio-economic impact, then you start getting office space and then you start incurring overheads, as you see the office space that we are in today. So you grow into certain things, but I ran my business strictly on cash for over 4 years. And I'm proud of that.
Why that decision? Why go the stringent route of relying on cash and not tapping into loans, grants, and all other financial instruments that could have been at your disposal?
You'd be surprised. A bank doesn't allow you to get an overdraft until you've had your bank account and you've shown that you can earn income. There's money coming in and out. We got our first overdraft, I think, about 3 years ago. So the bank won't consider you anyway. So the processes and systems for me in terms of support structure are not what they are supposed to be for entrepreneurs. They're very stringent criteria. I mean, how are you supposed to have surety when you've just started the business and they'll only give you a loan when you've got an asset to prove that you are worthy of the money? So I went that route and kept my overheads very minimal, strictly cash, because I knew that if I approached the bank for a loan, there wouldn't be a favorable response.
I want to go back to your source of inspiration. I mean, you speak so passionately about the work that you do. There must be a fire, an engine of sorts that keeps driving you. Where does that fire lie?
The fire in me is as a result of the grandmother who brought me up. Besides the fact that she supported me, at some point I thought I'd be a paleontologist. someone who goes and digs up fossils and looks for dinosaurs remains and all of that. My grandmother in the rural area where I grew up does not have even the most basic of services. Even water, she has to wait weeks on end sometimes without sufficient water that gets delivered by a water tank. So for me, the internet is my driver, in the sense that that grandmother of mine, I look at her and I look at millions of others who are probably in the same position. They are old, they'd like certain services from government, but they don't have them. What should we be using to provide those services to them? We should be using the internet to provide e-health services, to provide education services, and many, many others. The youth in that same rural area, they could be starting their own businesses if we invested more in terms of teaching them how to be technology literate and use the same mobile devices that they use to chat to family and friends to start little businesses to help with their own financial resources as well as the community indirectly.
Well, it's very clear that, you know, the Minister of Communications in South Africa clearly gets a lot of insight and guidance from you, understanding that you have a role that you play in that particular ministry. Give us a sense of how you see the future of ICT and young people for this country.
For me, the frustrating point in terms of what could be an ideal future for ICT, technology in general, and the internet in particular, are the processes that as government should be improved. Let me give you an example. In terms of infrastructure, I feel some people may not be happy about this. I feel that the private sector could do a little bit more. I also feel that the government could reach out to the private sector a little bit more as well. Let's meet each other halfway. You find that the private sector has resources and understands the industry very well, your telcos and everything. You find that government, like your ministries, you know, they could do with the input and expertise of the private sector, resources, infrastructure. I just feel that the marriage between the two could work out a little bit better.
As a final question, I mean, I started off this conversation reflecting on where we were. We were in Sandton, we were in Wynberg, and in these beautiful offices. 5 years from now, where are we? What kind of conversation are we having? And what has Lindelwa achieved for herself then?
At the heart of me, I'm an academic. At the heart of me, I believe in imparting knowledge, especially imparting knowledge in an arena that I think there's still so few in South Africa and Africa. So unfortunately, in the next 5 years, you'll probably see me at one of our universities.
So retired as an entrepreneur.
Retired as a consultant, probably to the UN.
Right.
In terms of advising in how Africa should be handled for the internet space. Teaching probably 2 days a week, and hopefully with a husband and raising some children and homeschooling them.
And that's it for tonight. Thank you so much for making the time to join me. And don't forget to tune in next week, where we'll be bringing you another great installment of bank-breaking content. Until next time, let's keep it rich, let's keep it real.